What are the Aristotelian elements we have studied about? Earth, water, fire and air were the four elements. But along came Robert Boyle, who rejected this theory. Why do you think he did that? He believed that elements were those substances which could not be decomposed chemically. And do you think he was right? Yes, of course he was. The elements we will study in the periodic table are those which are in their simplest form. They cannot be broken down into simpler forms. Based on these observations, elements were divided into three categories. What do you think they are? Metals, non-metals and metalloids are the three subdivisions of elements. We will study their characteristics in detail here. Can you give me a few examples of metals? Gold? Silver? Aren't these the very common metals we encounter? What can you tell me about metals? Do they have luster? What do I mean by luster? Do these metals shine? Yes, of course they do. That's what luster is, shine. So what is the first property of metals you just learnt? Metals have luster and they shine, right? Let us look at the second property of metals. Have you seen coins of gold and silver? You sure must have seen gold ornaments as well. Well, all these can be made because gold has two more properties. One is that it can be beaten into sheets. This property of metals is called malleability. When ornaments are made, these metals have to be drawn into wires. Metals can be drawn into wires and this property has a fancy name too. Do you know what it is called? It's known as ductility. Metals are ductile and malleable in nature. So far we have learnt three properties of metals. They have luster and are malleable and ductile. Now let us study a few more properties of metals. They mostly have a typical color and appear to be golden yellow or silver grey in color. Do you know one more property of these metals? They are sonorous in nature. What do we mean by sonorous? These metals make a hollow sound when hit. There is one last property of metals you must know about. Do you think metals conduct heat and electricity? Yes, metals do conduct heat and electricity. Let us go through all the properties of metals once again. Metals have luster and therefore they shine. Metals are malleable and ductile and therefore they can be beaten into sheets and can be drawn into wires respectively. They have distinct golden and silver colors. Lastly, they are sonorous and conduct heat and electricity. What about non-metals? Can you give me a few examples of non-metals? Bromine and iodine are examples of non-metals. Now let us compare them to metals and see whether they exhibit the same properties. Do these non-metals have luster? No, they don't have any luster. What about their ability to be beaten into sheets or drawn into wires? Can non-metals be made into sheets or wires? No, that cannot be done. So non-metals are neither malleable nor ductile. Are non-metals sonorous? As you can see, iodine and bromine cannot be sonorous. Similarly, all non-metals are non-sonorous. They do not produce sound when hit with an object. What about conduction of heat or electricity? Do you think they can conduct heat and electricity? Nope, non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity. What about their color? Do they exhibit just two colors like metals? Well, this is the only point where non-metals seem to exhibit a lot of variety. Non-metals show a variety of colors. So, in a nutshell, non-metals do not show luster but exhibit a variety of colors. They are poor conductors of electricity and heat. At the same time, they are non-malleable and non-ductile. They are non-sonorous and they do not produce any hollow sounds. I am sure you would easily be able to distinguish between metals and non-metals now. What about those substances which exhibit properties which are intermediate? What do I mean by intermediate? They are neither entirely metals nor non-metals. What do we call such elements? We term them as metalloids. Do you know any elements which may fall into this category? Have you heard of a silicon? It is a metalloid. Germanium is another example of a metalloid. What makes them metalloids? Is it their appearance? Yes, they appear to be metals, but in reality they are brittle. What do you think about their ability to conduct electricity? Metalloids are neither good nor bad conductors of heat and electricity. They are fair conductors of electricity. Chemically, they behave like nonmetals, and they can also form alloys with metals. I guess you now know why they are known as metalloids. With that, we have learned about metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. Do you know some fun facts about elements? We know about 100 elements till date, out of which 92 are naturally occurring. What about the remaining elements? Well, they are man-made and most elements are solid in nature. But do you know one metal which is in the liquid state? Mercury. That's right. Mercury is the only metal which is in the liquid state. It will also surprise you to know that 11 elements in these 100 are in the gaseous state at room temperature. The world of chemistry is really interesting. We will study how these elements mix to form compounds in our next video.